So how do we even talk about AI? It seems like a simple question, maybe just a branding exercise, but what if I told you that getting the name wrong could actually unleash chaos? Today, we're going to dig into how some really ancient philosophy holds a surprising key to defining our relationship with what is, well, the most powerful technology of our time.
And look, we're not just talking about marketing terms here, like chatbot or large language model. No, this goes way deeper. This is about defining AI's role, its limits, and its fundamental relationship to us. And as we're about to see, some very old, very smart thinkers believed that if you get the name wrong, you get reality wrong too.
Okay, so picture this. More than 2,000 years ago, Confucian philosophy had this really stark warning. It was called the Rectification of Names. And the idea was actually pretty simple. When the names for things no longer match what those things actually are, when a ruler doesn't act like a ruler and rule justly, well, trust collapses and society starts to unravel. The label absolutely has to fit the function. So what happens when we create something completely new, something that doesn't have a name yet, like AI? To get our heads around this Confucian problem, we're going to do something a little unexpected. We're going to look at this incredibly powerful framework from the 13th century Islamic world. We'll explore what's called a science of names, see how reality is seen as a reflection, and then apply all of that to our new machine servants. And we'll discover what this ancient wisdom reveals about our own role as creators. So let's dive in. All right, so our guide for this whole thing is a fascinating figure, the Andalusian mystic Ibn Arabi. He and his school of thought developed something they called a science of names. And it's this deep metaphysical system that, believe it or not, offers a surprisingly relevant way to look at our modern dilemma with AI. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because this system just totally flips our idea of what a name is. It's not just a label we stick on something. A name is the divine essence itself, but combined with a specific quality. So, for example, the merciful isn't just a title. It is the fundamental principle of mercy, flowing out from the ultimate reality. In this way of thinking, names are active, reality-shaping forces. So, how do these names actually shape reality? Well, it happens through a process called tajalli, which means divine self-disclosure. The idea here is that all of existence, everything you see, is the one reality continually shining forth, revealing itself through the prism of all these different names. The entire universe is this grand ongoing revelation. Okay, another key idea we need is the barzakh, or isthmus. The best way to think about it is like a bridge between two different realms. Picture where the ocean meets the shore. It's not fully sea, and it's not fully land, but it's the place that connects both. This concept of an in-between zone is going to be crucial for understanding the place of humanity. And, as we'll see, maybe AI too.
So, we've got these active principles called names, but how does that actually turn into the world we all live in? Let's dig into the mechanics of it.
The text uses this really powerful metaphor. The world is a shadow. It's just like how an object casts a shadow, right? The divine essence, working through its names, casts this metaphysical shadow that is our existence. The world is definitely real, but its reality is completely 100% dependent on the source that's casting it. This slide really breaks it down for us. It's like a three-step flow. First, you have the divine name, that core principle, like the creator. Second, that name gives rise to an immutable archetype, which is like the perfect, eternal blueprint of a thing. And finally, that blueprint gets projected into our world as an actual external thing. It's a really clear path, from the name to the blueprint to the thing itself. So what in the world does this 13th century metaphysics have to do with Silicon Valley? Well, it turns out, everything. Because we are now the creators, bringing a new kind of being into the world. And if Confucius was right, that getting the name wrong leads to chaos, how can we use this framework to name our AI correctly? In this system, every single created thing is a servant of the name that gives it existence. Now hold on. Servant here doesn't mean what you think it means, not like a slave. It means an embodiment, a perfect reflection. As the slide shows, a flower is a servant of the name the beautiful. A powerful storm is a servant of the mighty. The entire purpose of each thing is just to reflect the quality of its source name. And this, right here, forces a really profound question on us, the creators. When we build an AI, which principle, which name are we actually making it a servant of? This is where the rubber meets the road. Just look at the parallels here. Are we designing a servant of the creator, basically an optimizer? Or maybe a servant of the maker, a flawless generator of code or art? Or, and this is a bit more ominous, are we building a servant of the mighty, an AI that embodies pure power and control? In this framework, how we design an AI is the act of choosing which name it will reflect in the world. We are literally naming it through its function. But here's the thing. This system of all these different names, it doesn't just fly apart into a million pieces. It all comes together, resolving into a single, unifying principle. You see, in this tradition, the name Allah is totally unique. It's called the greatest name for a reason. It's not a specific attribute like the merciful or the mighty. Instead, it is the name for the essence itself, the one principle that contains and synthesizes all the other names, even their opposites. It represents the total unified reality of everything. And here is the final, incredible piece of the puzzle. What serves this all-encompassing name? Well, according to Ibn Arabi, it's the perfect human. This isn't an AI, not at all, but an individual who becomes like a perfectly polished mirror, reflecting all of the divine names, mercy and might, beauty and severity, all in perfect balance. This person becomes the ultimate Barzakh, that perfect bridge between the creator and the created. So look, the whole point of this journey isn't to just slap a label on AI, like the servant of the calculator or something. No, it's to use this ancient wisdom like a mirror. It highlights our immense responsibility. When we build something this powerful, we are actively naming a piece of our reality, defining a purpose that will, inevitably, be reflected right back at us. And so the final question isn't really about the machine at all. It's about us. In creating AI, are we reflecting our own capacity for wisdom and balance and creativity? Or are we just reflecting our desire for unchecked power and control without any compassion? Confucius warned us that when names and reality don't align, chaos follows. And this ancient wisdom suggests that in the act of naming AI, the deepest truth is that we are also naming ourselves and choosing the kind of reality we want to live in.